When I ask you to listen to me,
and you start giving advice,
you have not done what I ask.
When I ask you to listen to me,
and you begin to tell me why I shouldn't feel that way,
you're trampling on my feelings.
When I ask you to listen to me,
and you feel you have to do something to solve my problem,
you have failed me, strange as that may seem.
Listen. All I asked was that you listen.
Not to talk or do, just to hear me.
When you do something for me that I can and need to do for myself,
you contribute to my fear and weakness.
So please listen.
And just hear me.
And if you want to talk,
wait a minute for your turn, and I'll listen to you.
Are you thinking about suicide?
Suicide is not an easy thing to think about, and people will avoid talking about it at all costs. But this does not make it go away. The most helpful and effective thing that can be done by anybody is to listen with compassion and respect. For someone in the depths of despair, it can mean everything just to be asked with sincerity and without judgment.
Are you thinking about suicide?
The suicide question. The Samaritans Multilingual Suicide Prevention Service has been working to reduce the risk of suicide in Hong Kong since 1973. We would like to take this opportunity to share with you some of the resources available to you if you're feeling suicidal yourself or if you're concerned about someone who might be at risk.
I think everybody can be at risk at some point in their lives because suicide is something that can affect anybody from any background, any social status.
The Samaritans are not professional counselors or therapists. Neither are we merely enthusiastic amateurs. We're trained volunteers, offering emotional support to people passing through personal crisis, particularly, but not necessarily, those who are in imminent danger of committing suicide. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, for all 365 days of the year, anyone can call this number, 2896-0000, and receive completely confidential, empathetic support. You will not be judged. No one will push any religion or ideology onto you. You'll not lose your right to choose. 2896-0000. That number will appear throughout the program and again at the end.
We do also provide emails so that those who prefer not to call us actually have another avenue to use and to correspond with us via email.
Hong Kong is unique in many ways. Its history and culture are a heady combination of extremes. Fast-paced and often unforgiving, in a world-class city you also get world-class problems.
On average, there are 3 suicides a day. I mean, that's what's been documented. And of course, there are lots of attempted suicides that have not been successful, thank goodness. There is no account for those.
Economic downturns, social and personal pressures can sometimes be too much for a person to take. More people in Hong Kong die by committing suicide than are killed in road accidents.
I mean, here we have a lot of people, they die from jumping from a building, which is very uncommon in other countries. And also we have this new method of committing suicide by charcoal burning. And it's mainly appealing to the middle-aged group people who have financial problems. It's a worrying sign because what we believe that this new method of suicide is not just a new substitution, but it actually draws in a new cohort of people who will commit suicide, who would not commit suicide if the method wasn't available.
Each death is a tragedy, but it's only the beginning of the impact which suicide has.
The survivors, I mean, it's those, the deceased family members, the friends, the teachers, I mean, they all been affected by this. I mean, according to some research, and then they talk about for each complete suicide, I mean, there will be about 50 people who will be affected by that suicide. So, I mean, we are talking about each year, I mean, there are about 50,000 people who will be affected by this.
Clearly, this is a dramatic and urgent problem, one that will never completely go away. But it can be reduced. People can be helped and lives can be saved. With understanding, awareness, and the right support, suffering human beings can be brought back from the brink.
What we do is we walk down the path with the caller, because somebody who's feeling suicidal also feels very isolated. They feel that there's nobody for them and there's no point in staying alive anymore. The pain has got so bad that they can't, they don't want to be around to feel the pain anymore.
Everyone's pain is different, and the point at which pain becomes unbearable varies from person to person. A major cause of suicide is untreated depression. Depression is an illness that saps strength, crushes hope and self-esteem. Consequently, many people suffering from depression don't ask for and don't receive the treatment they need.
In Cantonese, depression is called 抑鬱 or 憂鬱. The words themselves, apart from conferring the meaning of sadness, etc., they also confer the meaning of something compressed, bottled up, or confined into a smaller volume or capacity than perhaps it should be.
So, awareness of depression and the warning signs of suicidal behavior are vital to anyone who is concerned with suicide prevention.
The other signs of somebody who's preparing for suicide would include things like making preparations, giving their things away, making wills, and signs of depression will be things like change in character, change in personal habits, loss of interest.
The individual usually lacks energy to do the things that he or she usually does. Say, doesn't want to go to work, doesn't want to go to school, doesn't want to do housework as usual. They easily feel fatigued. Other so-called less key symptoms are, say, sleep disturbance, which may be sleeping too much or sleeping too little. They feel that the future is hopeless, they are helpless, they have low esteem of themselves, and eventually some of them will think of taking their own lives.
Depression can strike anyone at any time, often with no obvious cause. This can be doubly hard on the sufferer because they may have feelings of failure for being unable to deal with their emotions, or believe that their emotions are not worthy of attention.
I think the suicide always is not a single factor's problem. It's really always is a multifactorial problem, and usually these factors, they interact with one another, right? I mean, we have seen some triggered off by the physical health problem, some are triggered from the family problem and the financial problem. So it is not just a problem can explain the whole thing.
We don't sit here and problem solve for them because you're not in their shoes, you don't know what they're going through really, but just the fact to be able to off-burden the problem and tell somebody that I have a problem and I'm trying to work things out, just that ability to be able to offload does help a lot of people.
The sad fact is that suicidal feelings are themselves traumatic and often terrifying for the person experiencing them and for those around them. For someone who is not prepared, the issue of suicide is a dark and difficult one. The main things that can be done to help the suicidal, and in fact anyone in emotional distress, are to recognize the signs and to listen.
To listen effectively, you've got to allow the person to talk about their feelings. You don't tell them off for speaking their minds and tell you how they feel. You've got to also empathize with them. You've got to respect them for their feelings, for what they are. And I think, time and patience are probably the most essential things.
Sometimes I wake up and you just don't feel you can face it. You've got the whole day.
When someone opens up to you, listen. They've done a brave thing in reaching out to you. No matter how negative it may seem, just to be talking about it is a positive sign.
But one of the important things is not just the availability of the services, it's whether the people who are suffering from this problem, they go and get help. It's a very brave behavior. It's not something to be ashamed of. I mean, it is really when you try to avoid the problem, which lead to suicide, that it is really a tragedy.
With the awareness and support of the whole community, human suffering and misery which lead to suicide can be reduced.
To prevent suicide is not just the government business, it's not just the University Research Center business or just the NGO business. It is really involved the whole community, which you and I can participate.
The Samaritans in Hong Kong and around the world are trained volunteers who share a common vision. We work towards a society where people are able to express their feelings and are listened to, where people in need are given unconditional emotional support, and most importantly, a society where hopefully fewer people die by suicide.